cited Norman Podhoretz. I feel really fortunate to have gotten to know Norman Podhoretz. Norman Podhoretz I put in the area of foreign policy and general overall intellect. I put him in the same classroom that you would find William Buckley and Milton Friedman and some of the founders. And I've been fortunate to meet Mr. Podhoretz. I mean, one of the last times I was with Bill Buckley was out at the Buckley home in Stamford, Connecticut, and Podhoretz and his wife Midge Decter were there. And Buckley had just gotten out of the hospital. It was emphysema, and he was just getting back into form. Wasn't quite there, but it was just a great Saturday afternoon, talking about things. We've interviewed him for the Limbaugh letter. He's got a piece, commentary, which I think is a website that he started, and it's entitled "Obama's Right." He said, whenever Barack Obama says, as he often does, that another war in the Middle East is the only alternative to the deal he's making with Iran, his critics immediately accuse him of setting up a straw man, which he does a lot. Even Netanyahu declares that the true alternative to the deal is not war, but a better deal. And so do leading domestic opponents like Senators Lindsey Grahamnesty and Tom Cotton. Now, I consider this is Podhoretz writing, I consider the agreement Obama has negotiated a dishonorable and dangerous product of appeasement. So it pains me to side with him against political figures I admire and generally support. But nevertheless, I have to confess that I think he's right in arguing the only alternative to a deal is war. Now, where he's going with this, it's not exactly, my often and long expressed what I think is common sense, the Middle East peace process, which is now its own entity. It's something that you can aspire to as a career, to be and to work at the Middle East peace process, meaning you can have a lifetime career there. It never ends. The Middle East peace process, the only thing that changes there are the people as they die off and are replaced by younger graduates of Ivy League schools who are trained in sustaining the Middle East peace process. Because the one noteworthy thing about the Middle East peace process is, A, there's never any peace, and B, it never ends. It's an ideal existence for an egg-headed bureaucrat whose primary objective in life is to make sure his bureaucracy never closes. Ergo, the Middle East peace process itself will never deliver Middle East peace. And to that end, I think with just some common sense, have offered up an opinion that in conflicts like these, they never end with negotiations. They never end with agreed-to words. Well, they do, but they're not solved with words. They're not solved with speeches. They're not solved with agreements. They're not solved with negotiations or any of that. They're solved militarily. Germany surrendered. Japan surrendered after suffering humiliating military defeats, which were so complete they were unable to even continue to defend themselves. And that's when the words and the negotiations really started to matter. Those are the terms of surrender. That's when the signatures take place. But in any conflict like this, it's never going to end until one side defeats the other. And you don't defeat anybody with words and doctors and nurses and clean water and the Red Cross and the United Nations and the blue-helmeted peacekeepers and whatever the hell else that's part of your process. Now, Podhoretz is not per se saying that. What he says is, I do not mean that war is the only alternative to Obama's deal alone. What I mean is that war is the only alternative to any deal the Iranians would be willing to sign, if that is, the purpose is really to prevent them from getting the bomb. Obama keeps insisting that this is what his deal will accomplish. But it seems increasingly clear that he no longer thinks that, if he ever did, that an Iran armed with nuclear weapons would be so dangerous that it must be prevented at all costs from getting them. He used to say that he believed that. And as recently as June 2013 at Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. But he doesn't believe that anymore. He doesn't believe that an Iran armed with nuclear weapons would be so dangerous that they should be prevented from getting them. Ergo, the only real solution here is war. And he's right. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to contemplate it. Nobody wants to consider it. But it's what it is.